This is an instructional video of how to make macarons using the Swiss technique for your meringue. The first step is to set up your double boiler. Next step is separating eggs.
So now that we are separating our eggs, we want to be very careful not to get any of our yolk mixed with our whites, because once the yolk is mixed in with the whites, you can't use your whites anymore. This is a very tedious task because once the yolk is in the whites, they are not usable anymore for this. So we have to be careful not to get the yolk on our tools, because if the yolk is on the tools, that is going to affect our meringue. In the background, we made a mistake and we got our fat mixed in with our whites, so we set that aside as we cannot use it, because if we were to use that egg, our meringue would not whip up the way we wanted to. And we are taking our time with this process because if we need to make sure that we aren't going to make any mistakes. So as you can see, we have to shake our tool to get the remaining egg whites because our eggs are not set to room temperature. If you set your eggs to room temperature, you would have an easier time separating your whites from your fats.
Now our next step is to measure egg whites. As you can tell here, we have to click tare to convert it to grams. And before we put it in, we have to shake our egg whites a little bit before pouring them in. And we need 60 grams into a measuring cup.
Our next step is to combine our whites, and we're trying to get 120 grams.
Our next step is to measure the colorant. We're going to put this at ounces and we're going to need 0.025 ounces.
Our next step is to measure out our egg white powder, and we need 0.335 grams.
The next step is to measure out 150 grams of sugar.
The next step is to combine the food coloring with the egg protein powder together into the sugar and mix it together with a fork to take away any clumps.
Next, you measure out 156 grams of powdered sugar.
Next, you measure out 156 grams of almond flour.
Our next step is to sift the almond flour with the powdered sugar. In the video, we use a bench scraper, or you can use your hands.
When you are sifting, make sure to double sift so that way your almond flour and your powdered sugar can be extra thin.
Our next step is to take our sugar and put in the KitchenAid to mix it with our egg whites with a whisker.
Our next step is to move our KitchenAid bowl on our stove for our double boiler, and we want to whisk it till our sugar is dissolved, but we don't want to over whisk it because we don't want to overcook our eggs.
Next, you want to set up your sheet on top of a pan and put parchment paper on top.
So next we're going to add our meringue into a big bowl. Next, we add the powdered sugar and almond flour into the mixture and fold it until it becomes a liquid consistency.
And now we put our mixture into a piping bag by putting the tip and then cutting the end of it, but be careful to not cut too much of it.
What we're doing now, we're putting meringue on our sheet pan for our parchment paper cannot move.
And now we're piping the meringue onto the pan, and we follow the inside circle of the little guides.
Make sure you milk down the bag. Another tip is to bang that sheet pan to remove those air bubbles in the shells.
And now we will proceed to remove the mat.
So next we're placing our macaroons on top of the stove so they can dry and form a little crust, as you can see there. You don't want to see your fingertip poking into it, you want it to have a film on top. As it comes to the end of the macaroons baking, we're checking to see if they're still moving and to see if they have good feet.
And now that the macaroons are done, we're gonna slide off the parchment paper so they can cool down.
Thank you for watching!
By London.
Valeria.
Noemi.
Yelixa.